Imagine the following scene. A man, in the 21st century, looks into his wife's own eyes and demands that she sell a body organ to play the whim of his mother. It looks like Mexican soap opera script, doesn't it? But this real story, as absurd as shameful, shows how selfishness and manipulation can destroy even the most promising love. Good night, listening friends. I am Andre Branco, and today in the Blood Ties program we will dive into a case that will make you outraged and perhaps rethinking your own limits. Prepared? So follow this trajectory of illusion, exploitation, and finally liberation. It all started like a modern fairy tale. Svetlana, a successful sales professional, met Igor in a coffee near the office. He, a factory engineer, spoke of the future safely, dreamed of family, was attentive, flowers, dinners, that romanticism that makes any woman believe in happily ever after. In 3 months of dating, everything seemed perfect. The few mentions of the mother were vague, almost shy. No one could imagine the hurricane to come. Until Olga Mikhailovna appeared. An imposing woman with a critical look and posture of those who think they have the world in debt with them. At the first date, he analyzed Svetlana from top to bottom with a veiled disdain. Too thin. Too independent. The wedding was simple, but the mother-in-law turned the ceremony into a discontent show. Sighs, swing headlong, a stone mask on her face. When he suggested that the couple rent an apartment close to their modest accommodation, Svetlana even believed it was for worry. What naivete! The first warning sign sounded a month later. Suddenly Olga began to present a collection of diseases: high blood pressure, heart pain, joint problems. Igor, as for magic, turned into a frightened boy, running to buy medicines, appointments, attend each whim. The woman, who worked as a cleaning lady in the same hospital where she had been a nurse 20 years earlier, with a salary she, though modest, could live, began to complain about invented poverty. Vitamin expensive here, new coat there, mysterious exams there. Always something urgent. Always something that was missing. Meanwhile, the couple's financial reality was different. Svetlana earned $12,000 per month, Igor, only $3,000, with no prospect of increase for years. They had no joint account, each managed their money, but gradually the common expenses began to weigh only in her pocket. Until, 6 months after marriage, Olga announced her inability to work. The doctors said I need rest, he said, without a single concrete report. Igor, of course, ran after certificates to get a disability retirement. When doctors refused, after all, there was nothing to stop her from working. The mother-in-law simply took medical license, who became more license, who turned vacation without a salary. It was then that the real calvary began. First, $500 per month. It doesn't even give the medicines, complained Olga. Then $1,000. Igor donated a third of his salary and pressed Svetlana to do the same. She, reluctantly, agreed to contribute over $500. But the mother-in-law's hunger was insatiable. Special remedies that never ended. Therapeutic diets with designer products. Necessary clothes for a sick woman who, amazed, Svetlana caught laughing and shopping at a mall with luxury stores bags. When discovered, Olga instantly bent. He let his hand to his forehead. Ah, my head, this migraine. Igor refused to see the scam. Mother worked all his life, deserves rest, he repeated as a scratched album. When Svetlana dared to question, at 48? This is not an age to retire, he pouted for a week. The drop of water came when Olga resigned. Now, officially ends employment, he started to demand a full salary of young people. Igor came home with the bombastic news, we have to give $5,000 a month to mother. $5,000. Almost half of what Svetlana won. Half of her sweat, the couple's dreams, the installments they paid, from the savings to their own apartment. But Igor was irreducible. Mother need. Point. She swallowed dry, got nozzles on weekends, cut spending, turned nights working. Meanwhile, her husband, after giving almost all of his salary, thought he had fulfilled his part, not even considered getting a second job. Until the final blow came. One day Olga stated that $5,000 was little. I want to travel, get ready, enjoy life. I'm still young, he announced, as if the 48 years made her a needy teenager. Igor, of course, ran home with the new requirement. Now it's $7,000 per month. $7,000. More than half of Svetlana's salary. Half of your life, your effort, your dignity, all to support a healthy woman who just didn't want to work. This time, something inside her broke. She tried to argue, "This is crazy. We are sinking to play the luxuries of those who might well turn around alone." Igor exploded. "You are selfish. Do not understand the sacred duty to take care of parent." He cited movies, books, examples of children who donated everything as if donation was synonymous with slavery. That's when he crossed the irreparable line. With his eyes injected with sickly fury, he spat the words that would seal the end of everything: "Do whatever." At that moment, Svetlana understood that there was no return. A man capable of demanding that his wife mutilate her own body to support the laziness of others did not even deserve her respect, much less her love. Without a word, she went to the bedroom, pulled the bag under the bed and began to store her things. Igor, stunned, tried excuses, empty promises, but it was late. In a firm voice, she ended the chapter. "It's over. Want to support your mother? Do it with your money. I'm leaving and I won't come back." And so, with dignity as the only luggage, Svetlana recovered something much more valuable than any salary: freedom. An hour later, Svetlana was already in the back seat of a taxi, watching the city that now seemed lighter. The cell phone vibrated every 15 minutes. Igor, desperate, trying to regain with words what he never knew how to value with actions. She didn't answer any calls. Not out of hatred, but for crystal clear clarity. Some doors, once closed, should remain that way. And when the touches finally ceased, she knew that he had understood. There was no return. The divorce was as fast as the marriage should have been brief. No goods to divide, without children to complicate, without resentment to feed. "I didn't even try to discuss terms or claim justice." He appeared in the registry with deep dark circles and the weight of a truth that only crushed him. Support his mother with 30,000 rubles a month was an impossible mission without Svetlana's salary. The irony. He had exchanged a woman who played her whims for a reality that even her own pride could disguise. The first months were a breath of fresh air. Svetlana rented a small but yours. He started saving money for the first time in his life. He enrolled in an English course, not out of obligation, but for pleasure, the luxury of investing in herself. The absence of constant requests for help to Olga Mikhailovna was almost a sacred silence. She woke up without the feeling that her sweat paid other people's bills. For the first time in years, I breathed. Igor, of course, tried to return. He swore he had changed, that he would now put limits on his mother. Svetlana heard with a sad smile. Men like him do not change by repentance, change when life forces them to swallow the consequences of their choices. If at age 30 he was able to demand that his wife sell parts of her own body to support the whims of a healthy woman, what would she do at 40? At 50? Some standards are tattooed in the soul. 6 months later, a friend told him the news. Olga Mikhailovna had moved to Igor's tiny Khrushchevka. The dream of having the daughter-in-law as an ATM had become a nightmare when the reality knocked on the door. 30,000 rubles did not pay decent rent, or the demands of a woman used to 70,000. The neighbors reported constant screams. Olga, once queen of an apartment paid by Svetlana, now shared a tight space with her son, where each ruble spent on food was an affront. She cursed, demanded, threatened, but Igor had nowhere else to run. He worked overtime, accepted poorly paid nozzles, while his mother complained that he failed as a man for not giving her the pattern she deserved. The greatest irony? Olga, who fought so much to be maintained, found that the independence she wanted so much was, in fact, a prison. Changing an apartment and 70,000 for a bedroom corner and crumbs was a blow from which your ego would never recover. She even tried to get a job, but 3 years of idleness made her unbearable for any boss. Accustomed to giving orders, I could not obey. Worse, any salary, it would be a fraction of what the son's extortion. Then he gave up. After all, why do you work should be sustained? Meanwhile, Svetlana met Dmitry. Divorced, with an adult daughter who lived on her own, he was the opposite of everything she had endured. His mother had died years earlier, and he never used it as an excuse for dependence. On the contrary, Dmitri believed that helping parents was an act of love when they really needed. A healthy mother who refuses to work. This was not a need, it was parasitism. He heard her stories with a mixture of unbelief and revolt. How can an adult man ask his wife to ask this? He asked, while Svetlana was surprised to find out what relationships could be built on respect, not about blackmail. 2 years later, they got married. Not for convenience, but by choice. He planned trips, saved together, supported themselves. Dmitri earned well, but never put the expectations of others above their well-being. If Svetlana wanted to help a family member, it would be a decision of them, not an obligation imposed by guilt. Igor, in turn, gave up looking for another wife. No one wanted to inherit a tyrannical mother-in-law and a man who had proven to be more child than a partner. The women he knew disappeared as soon as they discovered the truth. He was not a husband, he was a hostage. Olga finally accepted his destination. Not for gratitude, but for lack of options. They lived in a cycle of forced fights and respite, trapped in the same trap that she had helped to create. Sometimes they crossed in the city. Svetlana, with arms given with Dmitri, planning a future. Igor, with brighter dark circles and a bitter smile. He knew he had burned his own life on the altar of the whims of others. But it was late for regrets. Svetlana never celebrated her ruin. He just thanked every day for having the courage to choose herself. Igor got what he wanted so much, the mother just for him. It just didn't say that without a wife to explore, supporting Olga would be a lonely burden and that the dedication that would preach so would become an endless sentence. Life, after all, has a cruel way of giving us exactly what we deserve. Not always what we want.